My name is Amelia Vance. I am 26 years old and I live at 42 Oak Street. My mother didn't scream. She didn't throw a plate. She didn't even look angry. She just wiped her mouth with a paper napkin, set it down on the table and looked at me. Amelia, she said. Her voice was calm. It was the same voice she used to order coffee. We sold the house. We are moving tomorrow. You have 1 month to find a new place. You are not coming with us. The room went silent. I felt cold instantly, like someone had opened a window in winter. I looked at my father, hoping he would say something, hoping he would tell her this was a bad joke. But he just kept staring at his plate, pushing peas around with his fork. My older sister smirked behind her glass of water. My younger sister leaned over and whispered, "Good luck paying rent." They didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't ask where I would go. They just wanted me gone. By the next morning, the house was empty. They took the furniture. They took the family photos. They took the life out of the rooms. They left me in a hollow shell. But they made one huge mistake. They thought I was helpless. They didn't know the truth about who had actually signed the papers. 6 months later, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Why are you still there?" I looked at the message and started to laugh. She had no idea. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Amelia Vance. I am 26 years old. I learned how to be invisible when I was 6 years old. It wasn't a magic trick. It was a survival skill. I remember the day clearly. It was a Tuesday. I had come home from school with a drawing I was proud of. It was a picture of our house with a big yellow sun and 4 stick figures holding hands. I ran into the kitchen, excited to show my mother. She was on the phone. She held up a hand to stop me before I even opened my mouth. I stood there, freezing in place, waiting for her to finish. I waited for 10 minutes. My legs started to hurt. When she finally hung up, she didn't look at me. She looked past me at my older sister, Jessica, who had just walked in. "Jessica, did you find the dress for the dance?" Mom asked, her voice bright and interested. I lowered my drawing. I folded it in half, then in half again until it was a small square. I put it in my pocket and walked to my room. That night, I threw it in the trash. That was the first lesson. Do not interrupt. Do not demand attention. Do not take up space. By the time I was 26, I had perfected this art. My name is Amelia. To the outside world, I am a successful software engineer. I make good money. I solve complex problems. I lead a team of developers who respect me. But the moment I crossed the threshold of my parents' house, I stopped being Amelia the engineer. I became Amelia the furniture. I lived at home, not because I couldn't afford to leave, but because it was expected. Or at least, that's what I told myself. The truth was harder to admit. I stayed because I was desperate for them to notice me. I thought if I stayed close enough, if I was helpful enough, eventually they would see me. They didn't. My life in that house was lived in the margins. I was the background noise to their main event. Take my 25th birthday, for example. It fell on a Saturday. I had been looking forward to it for weeks. I thought maybe we could go to a nice dinner, just the 5 of us. I didn't want a party. I just wanted a meal where I picked the restaurant. 2 days before my birthday, my younger sister, Bella, had a crisis. Her boyfriend of 3 weeks had broken up with her. She was 19 and dramatic. She cried on the living room floor for hours. My mother rushed to her side. "Oh, my poor baby," she cooed, stroking Bella's hair. "My poor, sweet girl." My father hovered nearby, looking worried. "What can we do?" he asked. "Should we get her ice cream? Should we take her shopping?" I stood in the doorway, holding my car keys. I was about to drive to work, but I paused. "Mom," I said quietly. "About Saturday," Mom snapped her head up. Her eyes were sharp. "Amelia, honestly. Can't you see your sister is in pain? How can you be so selfish right now?" I felt the familiar sting in my chest. "I just wanted to know if we were still doing dinner." "We can't go out to dinner," Mom said, turning back to Bella. "Bella is too upset to be in public. We'll order pizza. And don't expect a cake. I don't have time to bake." On my 25th birthday, we ate lukewarm pizza in the living room while watching Bella's favorite romantic comedy. No one said happy birthday. No one gave me a card. I spent the evening refilling Bella's water glass and cleaning up the pizza boxes. That was my role. I was the utility player. If the internet went down, they yelled for Amelia. If the dishwasher broke, they yelled for Amelia. If they needed money for a short-term loan that never got paid back, they came to Amelia. But when it came to the good things, the vacations, the celebrations, I was a ghost. Last summer, they planned a trip to Hawaii. I heard them talking about it at breakfast. Mom was looking at hotels on her iPad. Dad was talking about golf courses. Jessica was looking at bikinis online. That sounds fun, I said, trying to keep my voice casual. When are we going? The table went silent. Jessica smirked into her coffee cup. Oh, Amelia, Mom said, not looking up from her screen. We didn't think you'd want to come. It's very expensive, and we know you're saving your money. I have money, I said. I can pay for myself. It's already booked, Dad said quickly. He always spoke quickly when he was lying or uncomfortable. We only got 2 rooms, there's no space. Right, I said, no space. They went to Hawaii for 10 days. I stayed home and watered the plants. I took care of the dog. I brought in the mail. I watched their photos pop up on social media, smiling faces, flower necklaces, sunsets. In every caption, Mom wrote, "Family time is the best time." I wasn't in the photos. I wasn't in the captions. I wasn't in their minds. It wasn't just the big things. It was the daily erosion of my self-worth. It was the way they talked over me at dinner. If I started to tell a story about my day, Jessica would interrupt with a story about her gym class, and everyone would pivot to her. If I expressed an opinion on a movie, Bella would roll her eyes and say, "You have such boring taste, Amelia." And Mom would just nod. "Bella has a point, Amelia. You are a bit dry, boring, quiet, steady." That's how they saw me. I was the reliable old sedan parked in the driveway, while my sisters were the flashy sports cars. You don't take pictures of the sedan. You don't brag about the sedan. You just expect it to start when you turn the key. And when you're done with it, you park it and forget it exists. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know that boring Amelia was a senior engineer at a major tech firm. They didn't know I had invested in stocks since I was 18. They didn't know I had built a side business designing apps that brought in more money than my father made in a year. I never told them. Why would I? They never asked. To them, I was just Amelia who fixed the Wi-Fi. Amelia who didn't date enough. Amelia who wore simple clothes and didn't wear enough makeup. I kept my success secret. It was the only thing that was truly mine. In a house where I had no privacy and no voice, my bank account was my rebellion. It was my secret armor. I used to dream that one day I would reveal it. I imagined a moment where I would buy them all expensive gifts and they would finally look at me with respect. They would say, "Wow, Amelia, we underestimated you. We're sorry." But as the years went on, that dream faded. I realized they didn't care about what I did. They only cared about what I could do for them, so I stayed quiet. I went to work, I came home, I ate dinner in silence, I washed the dishes. I went to my room. I was the daughter who never took up space. Until the day they decided I didn't deserve any space at all. To understand why I didn't fight back sooner, you have to understand the hierarchy of our house. It was a kingdom, and everyone had a rank. At the top sat my mother, Ellen. Mom was the queen. She wasn't a loud tyrant, she was a cold one. She ruled with silence and disappointment. Her love was a currency, and the exchange rate changed every day. If you looked good, if you agreed with her, if you made her look like a good mother in front of her friends, you earned a sliver of affection. But if you embarrassed her, if you disagreed, you were frozen out. Mom cared about appearances more than anything. She wanted the perfect house, the perfect lawn, and the perfect daughters. Jessica and Bella fit the mold. They were loud, blonde, and social. They knew how to play the game. I was dark-haired, quiet, and introverted. I was a glitch in her perfect image. Mom didn't yell at me, she just edited me. "Are you wearing that?" she would ask, looking at my sweater. "It makes you look so washed out." "Why can't you be more like Jessica?" she would sigh. "She has so many friends." She chipped away at me day after day. She made me feel like my very existence was a burden she was graciously tolerating. Next in the hierarchy was my father, Robert. Dad was the jester who had lost his laugh. He was a weak man. I say that with sadness, not hate. He worked in insurance and hated it. He came home, sat in his recliner, and watched TV until he fell asleep. He saw everything. He saw Mom ignore me. He saw my sisters mock me. Sometimes I would catch him looking at me with a sad, apologetic expression. But he never spoke up. "Robert, tell Amelia she can't wear those shoes," Mom would say. "Amelia, listen to your mother," he would mumble, not looking away from the TV. He chose peace over protection. He sacrificed me to keep Mom happy. In some ways, his betrayal hurt more. Mom was mean, but Dad was indifferent. He was supposed to be my protector, but he was just another piece of furniture, terrified of being rearranged. Then there were the princesses, Jessica and Bella. Jessica was 28. She was the oldest and the meanest. She worked as a receptionist at a salon, but if you asked her, she was a social media influencer. She spent her entire paycheck on clothes and makeup, then borrowed money from mom and dad for her car payment. Jessica hated me because I was smart. She sensed that I had something she didn't, intelligence and focus, and she tried to crush it. "Look at the nerd," she would say when I came home with books. "Going to study. Don't you have a life?" She loved to humiliate me. If we had guests, she would tell embarrassing stories about me from when I was a child. She would bring up the time I tripped on stage in 3rd grade, or the time I got rejected by a boy in high school. She fed on my shame. Bella was 22, the baby. She wasn't mean like Jessica, she was just purely selfish. She lived in a world where she was the main character and everyone else was an extra. Bella was the sensitive one. If the toast was burnt, she cried. If it rained on a day she wanted to go to the beach, she threw a tantrum. Mom and Dad catered to her every whim. "Bella is fragile," Mom would say. "We have to be gentle with her." So Bella got the new car because hers made a funny noise. Bella got the bigger bedroom because she needed space for her art. Bella got the credit card because she forgot hers. And then, at the bottom of the hierarchy was me. Amelia, I was the servant, the fixer, the scapegoat. My role was to absorb the negativity in the house so the others didn't have to. When Jessica got a speeding ticket, it was somehow my fault for not waking her up earlier so she wouldn't have to rush. When Bella failed a college class, it was my fault for not helping her study, even though I was working 60 hours a week. When Mom was in a bad mood, I was the target. I remember one specific Tuesday evening, about 3 months before the betrayal dinner. I had come home late from work, exhausted. I walked into the kitchen to find a disaster. Dishes were piled high in the sink. Tomato sauce was splattered on the stove. Pizza boxes were open on the counter. Mom, Dad, Jessica, and Bella were in the living room, laughing at a movie. I walked in. "Did anyone save me dinner?" I asked. Mom didn't turn around. "We ordered pizza, there might be a crust left." I looked in the box. It was empty, just grease stains. "And Amelia," Mom added, "clean up the kitchen before you go to bed. I made sauce earlier and I'm too tired to clean it." "I just got home," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "I've been working since 7 this morning." Jessica laughed. "Oh, poor Amelia. Tapping on a keyboard is so hard." "I'm on my feet all day," Jessica said. She sat at a desk. "You have it easy." "Just do it, Amelia," Dad said from his chair. "Don't start an argument. We're trying to relax." I stood there for a moment. I looked at their backs. They were a unit, a closed circle. I was on the outside, looking in. I went to the kitchen. I scraped the dried sauce off the stove. I loaded the dishwasher. I wiped the counters. I ate a piece of plain toast over the sink. I washed their plates. I washed the forks they used to feed themselves while I starved. As I scrubbed a stubborn stain on a pot, I realized something. I wasn't just their daughter, I was their appliance. I was useful to them, but I wasn't loved by them. And you don't keep an appliance when you move houses. You sell it. You leave it behind, you upgrade. I just didn't realize how soon my expiration date was coming. The air in the house was strange that day. It felt heavy, like the atmosphere before a thunderstorm. I had come home early, around 5 p.m. Usually the house was chaotic, but today it was quiet. Too quiet. I found my mother in the kitchen. She wasn't cooking. She was standing by the window, looking out at the backyard. The kitchen was spotless. The counters were cleared of the usual clutter. No mail, no keys, no random cups. "Hi, Mom," I said, putting my bag down. She turned slowly. She looked me up and down, her eyes cold and assessing. "Dinner is at 6 sharp, don't be late, wash your hands." "Is everything okay?" I asked. "Just be at the table," she said and walked out of the room. My stomach twisted. A family meeting. We never had family meetings unless something was wrong. Had someone died? Was Dad sick? I went upstairs to my room. I changed out of my work clothes into a comfortable sweater and jeans. I sat on my bed for a moment, looking around. My room was the smallest in the house. It barely fit my bed and a small desk. The walls were painted a pale gray. I had chosen myself. It was my sanctuary. I heard the front door open. Dad was home, then the giggling of my sisters. They were all here. At 6 p.m., I went downstairs. The dining room table was set, not with the everyday plates but with the good china. There was a roast chicken in the center, steaming vegetables, and a salad. It looked like a Thanksgiving dinner in the middle of April. Everyone took their seats. Mom at the head of the table, Dad opposite her. Jessica and Bella on one side, me alone on the other. Mom poured wine for herself and Dad. She didn't offer me any. Eat, Mom said. We ate in silence. The only sound was the clinking of silverware on porcelain. The roast chicken tasted like dust in my mouth. I couldn't swallow. I watched my family. Dad was sweating. He kept wiping his forehead with his napkin. He refused to look at me. He stared intently at his carrots. Jessica was smirking. She kept shooting glances at Bella. Bella looked bored, picking at her food, checking her phone under the table. Mom ate with precision. Cut, chew, swallow. Cut, chew, swallow. Finally, Mom set her fork down. The sound rang out like a gunshot in the quiet room. Robert, she said. Dad jumped slightly. He cleared his throat. Yes, Ellen. Tell her, Mom commanded. Dad looked at me then for a split second before his eyes darted away to the wall behind my head. Amelia, he began, his voice weak. We have some news. I gripped the edge of the table. What is it? We've sold the house, Dad said. I blinked. You sold the house, this house? Yes, Mom interrupted. Her voice was steady, void of any emotion. We accepted an offer 2 months ago. The closing was finalized yesterday. I was stunned. But where are we going? Why didn't you tell me? We are moving to Arizona, Mom said. Your father and I are retiring. The climate is better there. We bought a beautiful condo in Scottsdale. It has a pool, a golf course view, it's perfect. My brain was trying to catch up. They were moving to Arizona. Okay, I said slowly. That's big news. When do we move? Mom picked up her wine glass and took a sip. She looked at me over the rim. We move tomorrow. I froze. Tomorrow? The movers are coming at 7 a.m., Mom said. Everything is packed. The boxes are in the garage. We've been packing while you were at work for the last few weeks. I looked at them. Packed while I was at work. That explained the quietness, the closed doors. But I stammered. I haven't packed, I have work. How can I pack everything tonight? Mom set her glass down. She folded her hands on the table. She looked at me with a gaze so direct and so cold it felt like she had slapped me. You don't need to pack for Arizona, Amelia. You're not coming. The world stopped. The clock on the wall stopped ticking. What? I whispered. The condo is a 2-bedroom, Mom explained, as if she were talking to a slow child. 1 room for us. 1 guest room for when the girls visit. She gestured to Jessica and Bella. Jessica is moving in with her boyfriend next week, Mom continued. And Bella is coming to Arizona with us until she finds a job there. She'll stay in the guest room. I looked at my sisters. Jessica was grinning openly now, a cruel, satisfied smile. Bella gave a little shrug as if to say, sorry, not sorry. So, I said, my voice trembling. I have nowhere to go. You are 26 years old, Mom said. It is time you stood on your own 2 feet. We have supported you long enough. Supported me, I said, my voice rising. I pay rent, I pay for the groceries. I pay the internet bill, I fix everything in this house. Lower your voice, Mom snapped. You are ungrateful. We gave you a roof over your head. Now the roof is sold. You have 1 month to vacate the premises. The new owners don't take possession for 30 days. We negotiated that specifically for you. See, we are generous. Generous? I choked out. You're leaving me tomorrow with no notice. I looked at my father. Dad, please. You can't do this. Dad looked at his plate. Your mother thinks it's best, Amelia. It's time for you to launch. Launch? I laughed, a hysterical, broken sound. You're not launching me. You're evicting me. Call it what you want, Mom said, standing up. The movers come at 7 a.m. I suggest you go to your room and stay out of the way. We have an early flight. Jessica leaned forward. Don't worry, Amelia. I'm sure you can find a nice cardboard box to live in. Bella giggled. Good luck affording rent in the city. It's expensive. I looked at them, my family, my blood. They sat there, well-fed, comfortable, watching my life fall apart with amusement. I stood up, my legs felt shaky. I looked at my mother one last time. You're really doing this? I asked. It's done, she said. Now clear the table. I don't want dirty dishes left for the movers. I looked at the plates. I looked at her. No, I said. The room went silent. Excuse me, Mom said. No, I said again, stronger this time. I'm not clearing the table. I'm not washing your dishes. If I'm not part of this family, I'm not your servant anymore. I turned and walked out of the room. Behind me, I heard my mother gasp. Amelia, get back here. I kept walking. I walked up the stairs. I walked into my room. I locked the door. And then I slid down to the floor and buried my face in my hands. I didn't cry. I was too shocked to cry. I sat there in the dark, listening to them downstairs. They were laughing. They were already moving on. I was disposable. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the house. I heard them moving around downstairs until late. I heard suitcases being zipped. I heard the thud of heavy items being moved to the garage. At 6:30 a.m., the trucks arrived. I heard the heavy rumble of the engine in the driveway. The beep 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 as it backed up. I got up and went to the window. It was a massive moving truck. 2 men in blue uniforms jumped out. Mom was already outside, pointing, directing, commanding. She looked energized, happy. I put on jeans and a t-shirt. I opened my door. The hallway was already different. The pictures were gone from the walls. The small table with the vase was gone. It looked like a hotel that was shutting down. I walked downstairs. The chaos was organized. Dad was carrying boxes. Jessica and Bella were sitting on the front porch, drinking coffee, watching the movers work. When I walked into the living room, Mom stopped me. "Good, you're up," she said. She handed me a set of keys. "These are the spare keys. Leave them on the counter when you leave in a month. Do not lose them." She didn't ask how I slept. She didn't ask if I was okay. "Amelia," Dad said. He was holding a box marked Master Bedroom Linens. He looked tired. "Amelia, Robert, put that in the truck," Mom barked. Dad closed his mouth. He looked at me with sad, watery eyes, then turned and walked out the door. I stood in the corner of the living room and watched them dismantle my life. They took the sofa where we used to watch movies, mostly movies I didn't want to watch, but still. They took the dining table where they had just betrayed me. They took the TV, the rugs, the lamps. They stripped the house to its bones. By 11 a.m., the house was an echo chamber. Dust motes danced in the beams of sunlight that hit the bare floorboards. The walls had pale squares where pictures used to hang. Mom stood by the front door. She had her purse over her shoulder. Dad was already in the car, waiting. Jessica and Bella were in their own cars. Mom looked at me. She didn't hug me. She didn't touch me. "The utilities are paid until the end of the month," she said. "After that, they cut off. Make sure the trash is taken out on Tuesdays." "That's it?" I asked. "That's your goodbye." "Don't be dramatic, Amelia," she said. "We'll text you when we settle in. Try not to make a mess of the place before you leave." She turned around. She walked out the door. She didn't look back. I watched through the window. Mom got into the passenger seat of Dad's car. She checked her makeup in the mirror. Dad started the engine. They pulled out of the driveway. Jessica followed. Bella followed. They drove away in a caravan of indifference. I stood in the center of the empty living room. The silence was deafening. It pressed against my ears. I was alone, truly, completely alone. I sank down onto the floor. I pulled my knees to my chest. This was the moment I should have broken. I should have sobbed. I should have panicked. I had 1 month to find an apartment. I had no furniture. I had just been orphaned by parents who were still alive. I closed my eyes and let the reality wash over me. They didn't forget me. They discarded me. They planned this for months. While I was fixing their Wi-Fi, they were signing papers. While I was cleaning their dishes, they were packing boxes. While I was trying to be a good daughter, they were erasing me. The pain was a physical weight in my chest. It felt like a stone. But as I sat there, breathing in the smell of dust and floor wax, the stone began to change. It stopped feeling like grief. It started to feel like something else. It felt cold. It felt hard. It felt like a foundation. They thought they had broken me. They thought I was the weak one, the furniture. I opened my eyes. I looked around the empty room. They had taken the furniture. They had taken the decorations. They had taken their noise and their demands and their cruelty, but they had left the house. And they had made a mistake, a massive, arrogant mistake. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I unlocked it and opened my banking app. I looked at the balance. Then I opened my email. I scrolled down to a folder marked Project Home. I opened the email from the real estate attorney I had hired 2 months ago. The subject line read, "Confirmation of closing." I read the text again just to feel the power of it. "Dear Miss Amelia Vance, congratulations. The deed has been recorded. You are the official owner of the property at 42 Oak Street. The sellers have agreed to the 30-day leaseback period, after which full possession reverts to you." I stood up. My legs weren't shaking anymore. They hadn't just sold the house. They had sold it to an LLC called AV Tech Holdings. They thought they were selling to some faceless investor who would tear it down or rent it out. They didn't know AV stood for Amelia Vance. They sold their home to the daughter they pushed away, and they didn't even know it. I walked to the front door and locked it. The sound of the deadbolt sliding into place was the most satisfying sound I had ever heard. I wasn't homeless. I wasn't helpless. I was the landlord. And in 6 months, when they realized what they had done, they were going to wish they had treated the furniture with a little more respect. I walked into the kitchen. It was empty, but it was mine. I walked into the living room. It was bare, but it was mine. I took a deep breath. For the first time in 26 years, the air in this house didn't smell like fear. It smelled like freedom. I didn't need to pack. I didn't need to leave. I had work to do. I had a house to renovate. And I had a life to build. 1 month, that's what they gave me. I looked at the empty spot where the dining table used to be. 1 month, I said aloud. My voice didn't tremble. Game on. You might be wondering how the furniture of the family, the daughter who was ignored, silenced, and treated like a servant, managed to buy a house right under her parents' noses. It wasn't magic. It was anger, and it was preparation. The story of how I bought the house actually began 2 months before the betrayal dinner. It began on a Tuesday afternoon, a day that felt just like any other. I was at work. As I mentioned, my family thought I was a low-level IT support worker. They thought I spent my days resetting passwords and crawling under desks to plug in cables. That's what they told their friends. Amelia works with computers, my mother would say with a dismissive wave of her hand. It pays the bills, I suppose. The truth was very different. I was a senior back-end engineer for a major fintech company. I had been promoted 3 times in 4 years. I also had equity. And because I had no social life, since my family demanded all my free time, I had a side hustle. I built specialized plugins for e-commerce sites. They were small, unglamorous pieces of code, but they were used by thousands of stores. Every month, royalty checks deposited quietly into an account my parents didn't know existed. I had money. I had savings. I had excellent credit. I just didn't have a voice. That Tuesday, I was sitting at my desk, eating a sandwich, scrolling through my phone. An alert popped up from a real estate app I had downloaded years ago, mostly to daydream about moving out. New listing in your area, 42 Oak Street. My heart stopped. 42 Oak Street, that was my address. I stared at the screen. I thought it was a glitch. I refreshed the page. The listing loaded. There was a picture of the front of our house, taken from the street. The grass was freshly cut. The flower beds were weeded. I knew they were weeded because I had done it myself that Saturday. Charming 4-bedroom colonial in a sought-after neighborhood. Motivated sellers, retiring to Arizona. Retiring to Arizona, I felt a rush of blood to my head. My hands started to shake. I clicked on the photos. There was the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, my parents' bedroom, Jessica's room with her posters on the wall, Bella's room with her fairy lights. And then photo number 18. It was my room. But it wasn't my room. In the photo, my bed was there, but my quilt was gone. It had been replaced by a generic white comforter. My books were gone from the nightstand. The painting I had made, the one thing of mine on the wall, was taken down. They had staged my room to look like a guest room. They had erased me. I sat there in my office chair, surrounded by the hum of servers and the chatter of my colleagues, and I felt a cold rage take over my body. They were selling the house. They hadn't told me, and judging by the photos, they had planned this for weeks. They had waited until I was out of the house to let the photographer in. They had literally stripped my identity from the room to make it more appealing to a buyer. I was a ghost in my own home. I closed the browser tab. I put my phone down. I took a deep breath. For 26 years, I had reacted to them. I had cried. I had begged for attention. I had tried to be good. I had tried to be useful. This time, I wasn't going to react. I was going to act. I picked up my phone again. I didn't call my mother. I didn't call my father. I searched for real estate attorney. I found a man named Mr. Henderson. He had 5 stars and a kind face. I called his office. I need to make an offer on a house, I told the receptionist. But it needs to be anonymous. The sellers cannot know who I am. I met Mr. Henderson the next day during my lunch break. He was an older man with wire-rimmed glasses and a messy desk. He looked at me with curiosity. "Why the secrecy, Miss Vance?" he asked. "Usually, buyers want the sellers to know they are serious." "The sellers are my parents," I said. "If they know it's me, they won't sell. They think I'm broke. They think I'm helpless. They want to discard me, and I want to let them." Mr. Henderson looked at me for a long time, then he nodded. He didn't ask for details. He didn't judge. He just pulled out a legal pad. "We can form an LLC," he said. "A limited liability company. We'll call it, let's see, AV Tech Holdings. Sound boring enough. Perfect, I said. I will be the face of the transaction, he explained. I will communicate with their agent. Your name will not appear on the purchase agreement seen by the sellers. It will only appear on the back-end deed recording, which happens after the sale is closed. Can we do it fast? I asked. If you have the funds, we can do it very fast. Cash offers talk. I showed him my bank statement. Mr. Henderson's eyebrows shot up. Okay, he said. Miss Vance, you are a very capable young woman. That was the first time anyone had called me that in years. The next few weeks were a blur of double agency. By day, I went to work and managed the purchase. By night, I went home and played the part of the oblivious daughter. It was excruciating. I would come home and see my mother packing boxes. What's in the box, Mom? I asked one night. Just clearing out clutter, she lied, not looking at me. Donating old things. She was wrapping her crystal vases. You don't donate crystal vases. I watch them lie to my face every single day. Dad, why are you painting the trim? I asked on a Sunday. Just maintenance, Amelia. The house is getting old, he mumbled. They were prepping it for the inspection. My inspection. I hired an inspector who Mr. Henderson recommended. I told my parents I had to work late that day so I wouldn't be home when he came. I didn't want to accidentally laugh or cry while watching a stranger inspect the roof I was about to buy. The report came back clean. The house was solid. It just had a rotten heart. Then came the negotiation. My parents were greedy. They listed the house for $50,000 more than it was worth. Mr. Henderson called me. They're asking too much, Amelia. We should counter. No, I said. Give them full asking price. But I have conditions. What conditions? I want a 30-day closing, and I want a clause that says the property is sold as is, but the sellers must vacate all personal property. And I paused. I want to give them a leaseback option. A leaseback? Yes, they can stay in the house for 30 days after closing. I don't want to kick them out immediately. I want them to think they have time. You're a better daughter than they deserve, Mr. Henderson mumbled. We submitted the offer, a full-price, all-cash offer from AV Tech Holdings. My mother was ecstatic. I remember the night their agent called them. We were eating tacos. My mother's phone rang. She answered it and her face lit up. Cash, she practically squealed. Full ask, oh my God, yes, we accept. She hung up and grabbed my father's hands. Robert, we did it. A tech company bought the house, an investment firm. They paid cash. Jessica clapped. That's amazing. That means you guys have extra money for the condo in Scottsdale, right? Yes, Mom beamed. We're rich. I sat there chewing my taco. I was the investment firm. I was the tech company. I was the one making them rich. And they didn't even look at me. What about Amelia? Dad asked quietly. Where will she go? Mom waved her hand. Oh, she'll figure it out. She's an adult. This is our chance, Robert. We can't let her hold us back. I drank my water to hide the smile that was fighting to form on my lips. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a sharp, dangerous smile. She'll figure it out. Yes, Mother, I figured it out. The closing happened while I was at work. I actually took the day off and went to Mr. Henderson's office. I signed the papers. I wired the money. I held the keys, my own set of keys, in my hand. When I came home that night, the sold sign was up in the yard. My parents were popping champagne. Amelia, Mom called out. Have a glass of champagne, we have great news. What is it? I asked, playing dumb. We sold the house, she announced. To a big company, we're moving to Arizona. Congratulations, I said. I took the glass. To the new owners. To the new owners, Mom cheered. I hope they tear it down. I'm done with this place. I drank the champagne. It tasted like victory. That was the secret. That was the quiet power. While they treated me like a child who couldn't tie her own shoes, I was executing the biggest financial transaction of their lives. I held that secret inside me like a burning coal. It kept me warm when they told me to leave. It kept me steady when they drove away. They thought they were abandoning me in an empty house. They didn't know I had the deed in my pocket. The first night alone in the house was strange. I locked the door after they left. The silence was heavy. For years, the sounds of this house had been the sounds of my oppression, my mother's sharp footsteps, Jessica's loud TV, the slamming of doors. Now there was nothing, just the hum of the refrigerator and the wind outside. I ordered a pizza, a large pepperoni pizza just for me. I sat on the floor of the living room, right in the center, and ate it out of the box. I didn't have a table, I didn't have a chair, but I had peace. I slept on the floor that night, on a camping mattress I had bought. I woke up the next morning with a stiff back, but when I opened my eyes, I didn't feel that familiar dread. Usually I woke up wondering, what will Mom be mad about today? What did I forget to do? Today nobody was mad. Nobody needed me. I stood up, stretched, and looked at the empty walls. Okay, I said. Time to exorcise the ghosts. The renovations started that weekend. I didn't just want to furnish the house, I wanted to reclaim it. I needed to scrub their energy out of the drywall. My mother loved beige. Beige walls, beige carpets, beige curtains. She said it was elegant. I thought it was suffocating. I went to the hardware store and bought paint, not beige. I painted the living room a soft, warm sage green. I painted the kitchen a bright, cheerful yellow, a color my mother famously hated. She called yellow trashy. I thought it looked like sunshine. I painted my old room, the room they had erased, a deep, calm navy blue. I turned it into an office. I wasn't going to sleep there anymore. I was taking the master bedroom. Taking the master bedroom was a psychological hurdle. The first time I walked into it, I felt like I was trespassing. This was the Queen's chamber. This was where the decisions were made. I ripped up the carpet. It smelled like my father's cologne and my mother's hairspray. I had the hardwood floors underneath refinished until they gleamed. I bought a bed. A huge, king-sized bed with a velvet headboard. I bought white linen sheets with a high thread count. I bought pillows that felt like clouds. I bought a sofa for the living room, not leather. I bought a soft, gray sectional that you could sink into. I bought colorful rugs. I bought plants, dozens of plants. Monstera, fiddle leaf figs, pothos. I filled the house with life. I spent money I had been saving for years. And every dollar I spent felt like I was buying back a piece of my soul. My work life changed, too. Without the constant drain of my family's drama, I had energy. I wasn't rushing home to cook dinner for ungrateful people. I wasn't spending my weekends running errands for Bella. I stayed late at the office because I wanted to. I took on a new project leading a team of junior developers. One day, my boss, Sarah, called me into her office. "Amelia," she said, "you're different lately." I tensed up. "Different bad?" "No," she smiled. "Different good, you're lighter, you speak up more in meetings, you seem confident. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." I smiled. "I just got rid of some dead weight at home," I said. "Well, it suits you," she said. "We're giving you a raise and a bonus." I walked out of her office feeling 10 feet tall. 6 months passed. The house was unrecognizable. It wasn't the Vance family home anymore. It was Amelia's house. I had friends over, real friends. People from work and a few friends from college I had reconnected with. We had dinner parties. We sat on my yellow kitchen chairs and drank wine and laughed. Nobody made fun of me. Nobody interrupted me. Nobody told me to clear the table while they relaxed. I was happy. Actually, genuinely happy. I had almost forgotten about them. They were in Arizona. I assumed they were living their perfect, retired life. They had sent a few texts in the beginning. "Mom, week 1, we arrived. The condo is smaller than we thought. Bella is complaining about the heat. Dad, week 3, do you know where the tax files are? I think I left them in the attic. Jessica, month 2, hey, can you Venmo me $50? I'm short for rent." I ignored Jessica. I answered Dad briefly. I sent Mom a thumbs-up emoji. I stopped checking my phone for their approval. I didn't care if they liked my profile picture. I didn't care if they commented on my status. I had cut the cord. But the universe has a way of testing you just when you think you're safe. It was a Tuesday evening, exactly 6 months after they left. I was sitting on my velvet sofa, reading a book. The windows were open, letting in a cool breeze. My cat, I had adopted a cat named Luna, was purring on my lap. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. I picked it up. It was a text from Mom. "Mom, why are you still there?" I stared at the screen. My stomach gave a little lurch, a phantom reflex of the old fear. Why are you still there? How did she know? I realized then. Mrs. Gable, the neighbor across the street. Mrs. Gable was a notorious gossip. She and my mother used to talk for hours. Mrs. Gable must have seen my car in the driveway. She must have seen the lights on. My mother thought I was squatting. She thought the tech company that bought the house hadn't moved in yet, or was letting the house sit empty, and that I, desperate, pathetic Amelia, had broken back in to live there illegally. I looked at the text again. "Why are you still there?" A second text came through. "Mom, Mrs. Gable says she sees your car. Did you break in? The new owners will call the police. You are going to embarrass us. Get out immediately." She wasn't worried about me getting arrested. She was worried about embarrassment. She was worried that her daughter, the squatter, would ruin her reputation in the old neighborhood. I felt a bubble of laughter rise in my chest. It started low and rumbled up until I was laughing out loud in my empty, beautiful living room. She had no idea. I typed a response. My fingers flew across the screen. I'm not breaking in, Mom, I'm just taking care of the place. I hit send. Mom, you are unbelievable. I am calling your father. We are going to have to come back there and sort this out. I cannot believe you would be so irresponsible. Come back, to Arizona? That's a long trip. Mom, we were planning to come back next week anyway to visit Jessica. We are coming to the house. If you are there, you better have a good explanation. She thought she was threatening me. She thought she was going to swoop in, scold her wayward child, and save the day. She didn't know she was walking into a trap. I looked around my living room. I looked at the sage walls, the expensive rug, the art I had chosen. Come on then, I whispered to the empty room. Come and see. I put the phone down. I didn't run. I didn't hide. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of wine. The queen was coming back to her castle. But she was going to find out that the locks had been changed, and there was a new ruler on the throne. I was ready. The day they arrived was a Saturday. It was raining, a slow, gray drizzle that made the pavement shine. I had been expecting them for 3 days. My mother had texted me updates on their drive from the airport, mostly threats disguised as travel updates. We are 20 minutes away. I hope you have packed your bags. We are not playing games, Amelia. I wasn't playing games either. I was sitting in the living room, drinking coffee from a mug that said Boss Lady, a gift from my friend Sarah. I was wearing my favorite outfit, soft leggings and an oversized cashmere sweater. I looked comfortable. I looked like I belonged here. At 2:15 p.m., a car pulled into the driveway. It was a rental car, a silver sedan. I watched through the front window as the doors opened. My mother stepped out first. She looked exactly the same, yet somehow different. Her hair was a little shorter, her tan was a little deeper, the Arizona sun, but her expression was the same pinched, unhappy look she always wore when she had to deal with me. My father got out next. He looked older. He was hunched over, struggling with an umbrella. Then the back doors opened. Jessica and Bella, they must have flown in to meet them. The whole squad was here. They walked up the walkway. Mom marched in front, the general leading her troops. She didn't knock. She didn't ring the doorbell. She just reached into her purse, pulled out a key, and shoved it into the lock. I sat on the sofa and listened. Scritch, scratch, jiggle. The key didn't turn. I had changed the locks the day they left. What on earth? I heard Mom mutter. She tried again. She rattled the handle. It's stuck. Robert, come help me. The lock is jammed. Dad fumbled with the door. It's not turning, Ellen. Maybe it's the wrong key. It's the only key, she snapped. She must have changed it. That ungrateful little, she started pounding on the door. Amelia, open this door right now. I know you're in there. Mrs. Gables saw your car. I took a sip of my coffee. I set the mug down on the coaster. I stood up, smoothed my sweater, and walked to the door. I unlocked the deadbolt. Click. I opened the door. My mother almost fell forward, her fist raised to knock again. She caught herself and glared at me. Finally, she huffed. Why did you change the locks? Do you know how illegal that is? You are squatting in a house that belongs to. She stopped. She had looked past my shoulder. She was expecting to see the empty, dusty shell she had left behind. She was expecting to see her failure daughter sleeping on a mattress on the floor surrounded by trash. Instead, she saw the sage green walls. She saw the expensive gray sectional sofa. She saw the abstract art on the walls. She saw the fiddle leaf fig tree in the corner, reaching toward the ceiling. She saw the warm glow of the new lamps. Her mouth fell open. What? She whispered. She pushed past me. She walked into the living room, her wet shoes squeaking on the refinished hardwood floors. What is this? She asked, spinning around. Where did this furniture come from? Dad walked in behind her, shaking his umbrella. He looked around, blinking rapidly. Wow, he said. It looks nice. Jessica and Bella crowded into the hallway. Whoa, Bella said. Did you rob a furniture store? Jessica narrowed her eyes. Did the new owners move in? Are you working for them? Is that why you're here? Are you the maid? That stung, but I didn't show it. Hello, Mom. Hello, Dad, I said calmly. Please take off your shoes. I just had the floors done. Mom ignored me. She was touching the fabric of the sofa. She looked at the label on a throw pillow. This is expensive, she muttered. She turned to me, her eyes wide with panic. Amelia, what have you done? Did you break in and decorate? The owners are going to sue us. They are going to think we did this. We sold this house empty. You need to get this stuff out, Dad said nervously. If the company sees this, Amelia, you're going to get us in trouble. The company knows, I said. They know, Mom asked. You talked to them, what did you tell them? I didn't tell them anything, I said. Because I don't talk to myself. The room went silent. The only sound was the rain hitting the window. What? Jessica said. She laughed, a sharp, nervous sound. What does that mean, you don't talk to yourself? You're weird, Amelia. I walked over to the side table. I picked up a manila folder I had prepared. Sit down, I said. I will not sit down on stolen furniture, Mom snapped. It's not stolen, I said. And it's not the company's furniture, it's mine. This house is mine. I held out the folder. Mom snatched it from my hand. She opened it. Her eyes scanned the first page. It was a copy of the deed. Property address, 42 Oak Street. Owner, AV Tech Holdings, LLC. AV Tech Holdings, Mom read aloud. See, it's a company, you're lying. Look at the second page, I said. The articles of organization for the LLC. Mom flipped the page. Her eyes darted down to the bottom. Manager and sole member, Amelia Vance. She froze, she read it again. She brought the paper closer to her face. Amelia Vance, she whispered. AV, I said. Amelia Vance. AV Tech Holdings. Mom looked up at me. Her face was pale, drained of all color. She looked from the paper to me, then back to the paper. You, she said, you bought the house. Yes, I said. But Dad stammered. It was a cash offer. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Where, how? I have a job, Dad, I said. A good job, I've had it for years, you just never asked. But you work in it, Jessica said. You fix printers. I'm a senior software engineer, I corrected her. I build the systems that banks use to process payments. I make 3 times what Dad makes. I saw the shock hit them like a physical wave. Jessica's jaw dropped. Bella looked confused, like she was trying to do math in her head. Dad looked ashamed. But Mom looked angry. She threw the folder onto the coffee table. You tricked us, she screamed. I didn't trick you, I said. I made an offer, you accepted it. You hid behind a company, she yelled. You let us think we were selling to strangers. You let us move to Arizona. You wanted to move to Arizona, I reminded her. You told me to leave. You gave me 1 month, remember? You're not coming with us. That's what you said. But if we had known you had this kind of money, Mom trailed off. Her eyes narrowed. If we had known, we wouldn't have sold it to you. Why? I asked. Because you would have wanted me to give you the money instead. Because you would have expected me to pay for your retirement and still live in the small bedroom. She didn't answer. The silence was the answer. We sold it for $50,000 over market value, Dad whispered. You paid extra. I paid what I had to, I said. To keep my home. To keep the only safe place I've ever known, and to make it actually safe. You have money, Jessica said slowly. She looked around the room with a new expression. It wasn't mocking anymore. It was greedy. You're rich. I'm comfortable, I said. And you let us struggle, Mom said. She crossed her arms. We are living in a condo the size of a shoebox. The air conditioning broke last week. We are sweating to death in Arizona, and you are sitting here in luxury. You chose Arizona, I said. You chose to sell. You chose to leave me behind. We're family, Mom shouted. You don't do this to family. That's funny, I said. I felt a cold, hard calmness settle over me, because that's exactly what you did to me. The air in the room was thick. The realization was sinking in. Their furniture daughter, the one they ignored, the one they mocked, held all the cards. Mom changed tactics instantly. The anger melted away, replaced by a look of wounded martyrdom. She sat down on the sofa she had refused to touch a moment ago. She sighed, a long, shaky sound. Amelia, she said, her voice softening into that manipulative tone I knew so well. I think we've all made mistakes here. We were stressed, the move was hard, we didn't mean to make you feel excluded. Excluded? I laughed. You kicked me out, you gave me 30 days. We were trying to help you grow, Dad chimed in, taking his cue from Mom. We wanted you to be independent. And look, it worked, you bought a house, we're proud of you. Proud? I asked. You're not proud, you're shocked, and you're embarrassed. Don't be like that, Jessica said. She walked over and sat on the arm of the sofa. So since you have all this space, maybe I could stay here for a bit. Arizona is boring, I miss my friends here. Yeah, Bella added, looking at the big TV mounted on the wall. This place is actually cool now. Can I have my old room back? But can we paint it pink? I looked at them. They were like water, they flowed into whatever container was available. They saw a resource and they immediately tried to consume it. No, I said. What? Jessica said. No, I repeated. You can't stay here, none of you can. Amelia, be reasonable, Mom said. We are your parents, we are visiting, you have 4 bedrooms, you can't turn us away. I can, I said. And I am. I stood in the center of the room, I felt tall. For 26 years, I said, my voice steady, I lived in this house. And for 26 years you made me feel like a guest. No, not a guest. A burden? That's not true, Dad protested weakly. It is true, I said. You forgot my birthdays, you went on vacations without me, you made me clean up after everyone, you spoke over me, you looked through me. I looked at Mom. You told me I was boring, I said. You told me I took up too much space. Well, look around, Mom, I own the space now. We loved you, Mom cried, tears springing to her eyes. They were fake tears. I had seen them 1,000 times. We fed you, we clothed you. You did the bare minimum required by law, I said. But you never saw me, you never asked who I was, you never asked what I wanted. You just wanted me to be quiet and useful. We're here now, Jessica said petulantly. We're seeing you now. No, I said. You're seeing my money, you're seeing my house. You're seeing what you can get from me. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. The rain was still falling. I want you to leave, I said. You can't be serious, Mom said. She didn't move. We have nowhere to go. We haven't booked a hotel. We thought we were staying here. You thought you were staying in an empty house with a squatter? I asked. Or did you think you were going to kick the squatter out and stay for free? Either way, the plan failed. Amelia, please, Dad said. He looked genuinely old then. We're tired. I was tired too, Dad, I said. I was tired for years. I was tired when I cooked your dinners. I was tired when I paid your bills. I was tired when you looked at your plate while Mom told me to get out. I pointed outside. Go to a hotel. Go to a friend's house. Go back to Arizona. I don't care, but you are not staying here. Mom stood up. Her face hardened again. The tears vanished instantly. You are a cruel, vindictive girl, she spat. You planned this, you trapped us. I protected myself, I said. There's a difference. If you throw us out, Mom threatened, don't expect us to call you. Don't expect to be part of this family. Mom, I said, looking her dead in the eye, I haven't been part of this family for a long time. You just made it official when you sold the house. She gasped. She grabbed her purse. Come on, Robert, she commanded. Come on, girls, she's insane. She marched to the door. As she passed me, she stopped. She looked at the house one last time, the warm walls, the beautiful furniture, the home she had never been able to create because she was too busy being cold. You'll be lonely, she said. You'll be all alone in this big house. I'd rather be alone in my house, I said, than lonely in a house full of people who don't love me. She flinched. She walked out into the rain. Dad followed. He stopped in the doorway. He looked at me, and for a second I saw a flicker of regret. Amelia, he said softly. Goodbye, Dad, I said. I didn't soften. He had his chance to speak up. He had 26 years of chances. Jessica and Bella stomped past me, rolling their eyes, muttering about how I was a witch and a loser. I watched them get back into the rental car. I watched the taillights flare red as they backed out of the driveway. I watched them drive away down the wet street. I closed the door. I locked the deadbolt. Click. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood of the door. My heart was pounding in my chest, a frantic rhythm, thump, 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 but then it slowed. I took a deep breath. I smelled the rain, the fresh paint, and the coffee. I turned around and looked at my living room. It was empty of them. The negative energy was gone. The judgment was gone. I wasn't broken, I was free. The aftermath wasn't explosive. It was quiet, and quiet was exactly what I needed. They went back to Arizona the next day. I know this because my aunt, my mother's sister, who never called me, suddenly called to tell me how heartless I was for turning my parents out into the street. They had to stay at a Best Western. Amelia, she scolded. Do you know how embarrassing that is for your mother? I'm sorry they felt embarrassed, I told my aunt. But my house is not a hotel for people who evicted me. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. That was the beginning of the purge. Over the next few weeks, I received a barrage of messages. Jessica sent long, rambling texts calling me selfish, then asking for a loan in the same paragraph. You're such a jerk, Mom is crying all day. Also, can you lend me $200? My car broke down. Block. Bella sent photos of herself crying with captions like sisterhood is dead. Block. Mom sent emails. Long, guilt-ridden essays about how much she sacrificed for me, how ungrateful I was, and how God would punish me for dishonoring my parents. She never once apologized. She never once admitted that selling the house from under me was wrong. Block. Dad didn't call. I think he was too ashamed, or maybe Mom wouldn't let him. Slowly, the noise faded. The digital tantrums stopped reaching me. My phone became a device for communication again, not a grenade I was afraid to touch. I continued to build my life. I finished renovating the backyard. I put in a fire pit and string lights. I planted a garden, tomatoes, basil, peppers. I learned that I loved gardening. I loved nurturing things and watching them grow, something my parents never did for me. My 27th birthday approached. The old Amelia would have been anxious. I would have been wondering if anyone would remember. I would have been bracing myself for a lukewarm pizza and a night of serving my sisters. The new Amelia planned a party. I invited my team from work. I invited my friends from yoga class. I invited Mr. Henderson, my lawyer, who had become a sort of mentor to me. On the night of my birthday, my house was full of light and laughter. Music was playing, music I liked, not the soft jazz my mother insisted on. We ordered sushi, trays and trays of it. We drank champagne. Mr. Henderson raised a glass. "To Amelia," he said. "The smartest real estate mogul I know." Everyone laughed and cheered. "To Amelia," Sarah shouted. "The best boss ever." I looked around the room. These people didn't care about my rank in a family hierarchy. They liked me because I was kind. They respected me because I was smart. They were here because they wanted to be here. I felt a warmth spread through my chest that had nothing to do with the champagne. It was the feeling of belonging. I had built this. I had built this home, this career, this circle of friends. Later that night, after everyone had left, I sat by the fire pit in the backyard. The fire crackled, sending little orange sparks up into the night sky. I thought about my family in Arizona. I imagined them in their cramped condo, bitter and angry, telling anyone who would listen about their ungrateful daughter. They were probably miserable. I didn't feel happy about their misery. Revenge is a heavy thing to carry, and I didn't want to carry it. I just felt detached. They were people I used to know. They were a lesson I had to learn. I pulled out my phone. I had one final thing to do. I went to my contacts. I scrolled down to Mom, Dad, Jessica, Bella. I didn't send a nasty text. I didn't send a picture of my party. I just pressed delete. One by one, I removed them from my phone. I removed them from my life. Self-respect isn't about revenge. It's not about making them pay. It's about removing their ability to make you pay. I put my phone down and looked up at the stars. They looked brighter from my backyard than they ever had before. My name is Amelia. I am 27 years old. I am a homeowner. I am an engineer. And for the first time in my life, I am exactly where I am supposed to be. Tell me where you're listening from, and if you've ever been pushed out only to rise higher. Have you ever had to build your own family because the one you were born into didn't know how to love you? Share your story in the comments. You are not alone.